Recently, there's been a noticeable shift in the fashion industry, signaling potential troubles ahead. Leading luxury conglomerates like Kering, LVMH, and Chanel are seemingly shifting into crisis mode. Kering's recent struggles, particularly with Sabato de Sarno at Gucci, have yet to captivate the industry or boost post-pandemic recovery, with no other brands within the group compensating for these shortcomings. At LVMH, challenges are mounting. Reports indicate a dip in Dior's sales, underscored by the abrupt postponement of its March 23rd men's show in Hong Kong. Similarly, brands like Fendi and Givenchy appear stagnant, and Hedi Slimane's potential exit from Celine amid tough contract talks adds to the turmoil. Meanwhile, Chanel's abrupt parting with Virginie Viard, who had dedicated 3 decades to the brand, leaves a significant gap in leadership and direction. Elsewhere, Burberry's push to upscale its brand has yet to yield the anticipated results, and Lanvin remains without a creative lead over a year later, despite CEO Siddhartha Shukla's efforts. Moreover, the fashion world buzzes with speculation following John Galliano's social media wipe, suggesting his departure from Maison Margiela might be imminent. Talented designers like Pier Paolo Pizzioli and Sarah Burton have departed their long-held positions at Valentino and Alexander McQueen, respectively, and have not resurfaced elsewhere. This trend highlights a broader issue, a gradual erosion of the creative contract between designers and their corporate overseers, who no longer champion bold creativity as they once did. Historically, industry giants like Bernard Arnault and François-Henri Pinault took significant creative risks. Arnault's 1997 appointment of Marc Jacobs at Louis Vuitton introduced ready-to-wear to the brand, mirroring his bold move with John Galliano at Dior. However, the immense scale of today's luxury brands encourages a more conservative approach, increasingly avoiding creative director roles altogether, as seen with Chanel and Berluti. Despite this prevailing caution, some brands break the mold. Jonathan Anderson at Loewe, Prada and Miu Miu continue to blend creative surprise with commercial success. Yet this is becoming rare as the industry leans towards a safer, more predictable luxury merchandising akin to Karl Lagerfeld's prophetic 2015 Chanel supermarket runway. The industry also faces challenges from the collapse of high-profile e-commerce platforms like Matches and Farfetch, and the decline of Yoox Net-a-Porter. These platforms, once distinct, now suffer from a race to the bottom in pricing, which undermines profitability and threatens the viability of independent fashion outlets. All this contributes to a fashion landscape that struggles to captivate and inspire, suggesting that a breakdown might be necessary for the industry to rediscover its creative. In today's video, we're unpacking a scandal that's rocking the luxury fashion world. Major names like Armani and LVMH are under the microscope in Italy for potentially using illegal sweatshops. That's right, the very brands celebrated for quality and ethics might not be as clean as they claim. These brands have always used the Made in Italy badge as shorthand for unrivaled quality, superior craftsmanship, and ethical manufacturing. However, recent investigations suggest that behind the scenes, the reality is quite different. Italian authorities have discovered factories making $1,000 handbags in conditions that are far from luxurious. Recently, a Milan court took serious action against an LVMH subsidiary making bags for Dior, putting it under court administration for failing to meet Italian labor standards. Earlier this year, an Armani unit was subjected to the same fate. It turns out, these weren't isolated incidents. Several more brands could be implicated as the investigation widens, and it doesn't stop there. A Milan court has now appointed a commissioner to oversee an Italian unit of Christian Dior following shocking findings. The inquiry pointed out that Dior had subcontracted work to Chinese companies exploiting workers. This involved employing illegal immigrants and other workers without proper documentation, often in dismal living and working conditions. The investigators reported that the workers appeared to be living right at their workplace, in conditions that lacked basic hygiene and health standards. They noted that Dior's unit failed to take necessary steps to check the actual working conditions, or even the capability of these subcontractors. This lack of oversight is alarming and raises a big red flag about what really goes on in the supply chains of these esteemed brands. It's a stark reminder that the problem of unethical labor practices isn't limited to fast fashion, but extends into the realms of high fashion, where the stakes and prices are much higher. Despite their high-end positioning and pricing strategies that suggest a commitment to ethical practices, the transparency in operations of these luxury brands remains minimal. Moreover, the implications of these findings are massive. Under new EU due diligence rules, such lapses could lead to fines up to 5% of a company's global revenue. That's a significant financial hit, signaling that it's time for the industry to clean up its act. But why should you as a consumer care? Well, when you purchase a luxury item, you're often paying for the story and the brand's promise as much as for the product itself. Discovering that a high-priced handbag or garment is produced under questionable ethical standards can undermine the trust and premium consumers place in these brands. This ongoing scandal also puts a spotlight on the importance of sustainable and ethical practices across all sectors, urging consumers to rethink where and how they spend their hard-earned money. If the brands can't guarantee the ethics behind their glamorous facades, it might prompt a shift in consumer loyalty towards brands that prioritize transparency and responsibility. As luxury consumers are becoming more socially and environmentally conscious, the expectation for brands to act responsibly is higher than ever. The luxury market thrives on exclusivity and a pristine reputation. Failing to address these issues could not only lead to legal repercussions, but what could also tarnish brand images, potentially alienating a new generation of buyers who value ethics over mere aesthetics. So what do you think? Will these revelations change how you view luxury brands? Are they still worth the premium if the cost to human dignity is so high? Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're tackling a hot topic. Is buying a dupe really any worse than splurging on an authentic luxury bag? Given the recent scandals around brands like LVMH, it's time to dive deep into what your money really supports. First up, let's talk about what's been happening in the luxury fashion world. Major names like Armani and LVMH have come under fire in Italy for alleged labor exploitation. Investigations have revealed that some high-end products, which sell for thousands of dollars, are being produced under questionable conditions. We're talking about factories where workers, some undocumented and working in unsafe conditions, are making luxury goods for a fraction of their retail price. In one shocking case, a court in Milan placed an LVMH subsidiary under administration after it failed to ensure its suppliers met Italian labor standards. And it's not just one isolated incident. This is becoming a pattern in the industry. The revelations have rocked the foundations of brands that pride themselves on a legacy of quality and responsibility. Now consider the purpose of a luxury brand. These companies sell an image of sophistication, quality, and ethical craftsmanship, often justified by their high price tags. But if these brands are cutting corners at the cost of human dignity, what are we really paying for? On the flip side, let's talk about dupes. Sure, they're often frowned upon for being imitations, but let's peel back the layers. Dupes are significantly cheaper, and while they may not always come from the most reputable sources, the same could be said about some luxury brands, as recent scandals have shown. The argument here isn't that dupes are inherently better or more ethical. It's about transparency and consumer awareness. If a luxury bag made under dubious labor practices sells for $2,600 and a similar dupe sells for $100, the ethical discrepancy becomes a critical talking point. With dupes, at least, consumers aren't misled by a false narrative of luxury and ethical superiority. It's also important to discuss the environmental impact. Many luxury brands tout sustainability, but the recent scandals reveal a disconnect between their marketing and their manufacturing processes. On the other hand, while dupes are not typically celebrated for their environmental credentials, the debate becomes about the lesser of two evils. If both are problematic, why pay a premium? This conversation extends beyond just luxury bags. It's about every product these brands offer and what their real values are as companies. How can they claim to stand for luxury and ethics while overseeing such questionable operations? The luxury market is at a crossroads. In conclusion, when you're deciding between a dupe and an authentic luxury bag, consider the broader implications of your purchase. It's not just about aesthetics or status, it's about the ethics behind the product. Until luxury brands can guarantee transparency and fair labor practices, one might argue that spending thousands on their products supports a problematic system. As always, I encourage you to think critically about where your money goes. Do your research, stay informed, and choose products that align not just with your style, but with your values. Today, we're tackling another hot topic. Besides, are we not here for the beef? Bagu teamed up with the avant-garde warriors at Collina Strada, promising a psychedelic trip with their latest collaboration, featuring prints and a horse-shaped purse straight out of a fever dream. But did they deliver a masterpiece or a mess? While Bagu's CEO, Emily Sugihara, claimed sales soared. Social media tells a story of broken hearts and enraged eco-warriors. The collection, bursting with reusable bags, funky pouches, and even a tent, became ground zero for a heated debate over AI in fashion. The drama unfolded with fiery tweets, Using AI is unforgivable. Hurts my heart, but I will not be buying from Bagu anymore, cried one fan. Another lamented, it's a big disappointment. Clearly the vibe check failed for some. Hilary Taymor, the creative brain behind Colina Strada, has been flirting with AI, crafting new prints from old sketches. Despite her good intentions, Taymor's techie romance sparked fierce debates about authenticity, artist livelihood, and the unseen environmental toll of AI. Fashion elites like Tommy Hilfiger and Valentino are already rolling out AI-infused campaigns. According to Business of Fashion, 73% of industry execs are betting big on generative AI this year. But as this tech seeps deeper into fashion's veins, the backlash is gaining momentum. As Sugihara admitted, the uproar often stems from confusion. For the smaller trailblazers like Colina Strada, the mission is clear: innovate responsibly. Taymor pledges to keep her AI antics in check with her green goals. This isn't just about the backlash, it's about the future of fashion. As AI continues to weave its way into the fabric of the industry, we must consider what makes fashion truly valuable. Is it the label, the design, or the story behind each piece? And if AI can generate designs that resonate just as deeply, what does that say about our understanding of creativity and artistry? These questions are not just theoretical, they're urgent. As consumers become more aware and concerned about the processes behind their purchases, the pressure on brands to justify their methods increases. The conversation about AI in fashion is just the tip of the iceberg, signaling a shift towards a more informed and possibly more cynical consumer base. So let's hear it from you. Is AI in fashion a stroke of genius or a slap in the face to tradition? Today, we're diving into the dramatic collapse of two giant sneaker marketplaces, Restocks in the Netherlands and Kicks in France. Both seem to be thriving, selling hot items like Jordans and Yeezys and buzzing on TikTok, until suddenly they weren't. They shut down, leaving a trail of debt and unanswered questions. While their downfall seemed abrupt to the public, insiders weren't shocked. For months, both platforms faced a growing storm of complaints. Customers talked about orders that never arrived and refunds that were never issued. Why did these platforms fail? The sneaker resale market, once booming for over a decade, is facing a downturn. Nike and Adidas, the pillars of hype sneakers, have changed their strategies. Nike ramped up production of sought-after models, reducing their scarcity and resale value. Adidas, on the other hand, ended its Yeezy line abruptly, drying up a significant source of resale products. This shift hit smaller platforms hard. Restocks and another platform, Edit LDN, couldn't withstand the pressure and folded. The big players like StockX, Stadium Goods, and GOAT are weathering the storm by diversifying their sales to include not just sneakers, but also collectibles and apparel. For example, GOAT acquired the streetwear site Grailed to reduce its reliance on sneakers. Even the big names aren't immune to the market's shifts. StockX, for instance, had to lay off 40 employees as part of a company-wide restructuring. This all points to a broader trend. The sneaker resale market isn't what it used to be. Despite the market cooling off, there's still interest in what's known as grails, rare sneakers that fetch high prices. Meanwhile, new brands like On and Solomon are gaining traction with their innovative designs that blend performance with style, proving there's life beyond the traditional giants like Nike and Adidas. One critical flaw in the business model of many sneaker marketplaces, including Restocks and Kicks, has been their heavy dependence on a few major brands like Nike and Adidas. This strategy leaves them extremely vulnerable to the fluctuations, mishaps, and controversies of these giants. When Nike ramped up production or Adidas cut off its Yeezy line, these platforms found themselves directly impacted, lacking the cushion that a more diversified inventory might have provided. If there's a lesson to be learned from these failures, it's the importance of diversification. Betting everything on the popularity of a few brands is a risky strategy that can lead to instability and ultimately failure. The sneaker market is volatile, and tying one's success too closely to the fate of one or two key players can be catastrophic. Sneakerheads like Yu-Ming Wu believe that as the market stabilizes and consumer confidence returns, resale values will start to climb. So, what do you think about the sneaker resale market's ups and downs? Is this just a temporary slump or a sign of a more significant shift in consumer behavior? Today, we're diving into an incredible innovation in the world of running shoes, brought to us by the Swiss brand On. Known for their groundbreaking cloud tech technology, On is stepping it up again with a brand new innovation set to transform how we think about running gear. Let's talk about On's latest leap in footwear technology. They've just unveiled something called Light Spray, a cutting-edge spray-on manufacturing technique. Imagine a robotic arm, much like one you'd see in high-tech manufacturing, but it's making shoes. This arm sprays material to create ultra-light, one-piece uppers in just 3 minutes per shoe. That's a drastic cut down from the weeks-long process typical of traditional shoe manufacturing. Light Spray isn't just fast, it's revolutionary. The first shoe to feature this technology, the Cloudboom Strike LS, weighs in at only 170 grams, making it lighter than nearly any other running shoe on the market. For comparison, most top running shoes start at about 180 grams. This technology has already proven its worth. Kenyan long-distance runner Helen Obiri wore the Cloudboom Strike LS when she won the Boston Marathon this April. That's right, these shoes are marathon-winning good. But what makes Light Spray truly special? According to Ilmarine Heights, ON's Senior Director of Innovation, it's about more than just speed. This new method allows ON to produce shoes with 75% less carbon emissions compared to their other racing footwear. It's a win for athletes and the environment. Another huge benefit is the ability to produce shoes closer to home. With this technology, ON has been able to manufacture thousands of units right from their Zurich headquarters, all using just one robotic arm. This not only speeds up production, but could potentially reshape where and how products are made across the industry. And the timing couldn't be better. With the Olympic Games in Paris just around the corner, ON is gearing up to showcase their Light Spray technology on the world stage. Several of their athletes will compete wearing the Cloudboom Strike LS, and ON plans to hold live manufacturing demonstrations in Paris during the games. Meanwhile, giants like Nike are facing their own challenges. As Nike's sales numbers have shown a slight downturn, innovative brands like ON are quickly making their mark and capturing the interest of both athletes and casual consumers. This shift is a clear indicator of the dynamic nature of the sportswear market and how innovation can drive brand growth and visibility. ON is not stopping at just performance footwear. They're also looking to apply Light Spray technology to lifestyle shoes and are expanding their market presence with new tennis apparel, collaborations with high-profile designers like Loewe, and partnerships with celebrities like FKA Twigs and Zendaya. In a market that thrives on innovation, ON's Light Spray technology represents a significant leap forward. As Ilmarine Heights said, the only reason why innovation is justified is when you can scale it. ON is certainly scaling up, with record sales and a robust expansion into new categories. What do you think about ON's new technology? Could Light Spray change the way we think about sports performance and environmental sustainability? Today, we're breaking down the latest news from Kering, one of the biggest names in luxury fashion. Let's dive into why their sales are dropping and what it means for the future of brands like Gucci and Balenciaga. Kering reported that their sales fell by 11% in the second quarter, with Gucci taking the biggest hit. Gucci's sales dropped a staggering 20% as their efforts to relaunch the brand under new leadership didn't go as planned. The luxury market is facing tough times. After years of growth, consumers are now pulling back on spending. This shift isn't just hurting Gucci. Saint Laurent, which used to be Kering's most reliable brand, saw a 7% drop in sales. Balenciaga and Alexander McQueen, grouped under other houses, fell by 6%, and Bottega Veneta's sales were flat. It seems that there is no slowing down in the downturn of luxury brands. Is it that the designs are lackluster and lack imagination? Or is it that consumers are finally coming to the realization that they've been taken for fools, buying items made for less than $100 and sold back to them for thousands of dollars? With falling sales, profits have taken a hit too. Kering's operating profit for the first half of the year dropped by 42%. While this wasn't a surprise, it's still unwelcome news. The company warned profits might drop by another 30% in the second half of the year, without offering much hope for a quick recovery. Kering is trying to cut costs by canceling unnecessary store openings. However, this move might make it even harder to compete with other luxury brands that are also struggling, but not as severely. Jean-Marc Duplaix, Kering's deputy CEO, admitted, "We didn't start the year expecting this. In June, we saw a worsening trend, and it's continuing into July." This bad news follows weak results from other luxury groups like LVMH, Richemont, and Burberry. However, some brands like Moncler and Brunello Cucinelli are still growing. In Asia, luxury brands are dealing with low store traffic and poor consumer confidence, especially in China. Meanwhile, in Japan, a weaker yen has attracted shoppers, but brands are careful not to alienate local customers with high prices. In the US and Europe, inflation, political uncertainty, and a shift in consumer priorities away from luxury goods are hurting sales. Tourist shopping in key hubs like Hong Kong and Paris has also been lower than expected. Gucci's new CEO, Jean-François Palus, and creative director Sabato De Sarno are trying to revitalize the brand, but their efforts haven't paid off yet. Gucci, which makes up about half of Kering's sales and 2/3 of its profit, is undergoing major changes that will take time to show results. DeSarno's collections are more aligned with Gucci's heritage than before. Despite these efforts, Gucci's growth is lagging behind competitors like LVMH's fashion and leather goods division. If things don't improve, Kering might make some radical changes, possibly replacing Paulus with Stefano Cantino, who was hired from Louis Vuitton. With Gucci's struggles in the spotlight, Kering is also focusing on Balenciaga, giving it more time to recover from a public relations scandal and consumer fatigue with its provocative style. Kering's other brands division saw an 80% drop in operating profit due to investments in relaunching Balenciaga and supporting the new creative director at Alexander McQueen, Sean McGurk. Today, we're diving into a big issue surrounding Nike and its supply chain practices. For almost a year now, dozens of Nike investors have been pressing the company to address some serious issues in its supply chain labor standards. Despite repeated follow-ups on a letter sent last September, signed by 70 shareholders with over $4 trillion in assets, Nike has stayed silent. Now, a group of international investors is taking a more aggressive approach. They've put the issue of how Nike is managing human rights risks in its supply chain on the agenda for the company's AGM in September. This proposal calls for Nike to review its labor standards, especially concerning unresolved wage theft claims at suppliers in Cambodia and Thailand. In a recent proxy statement, Nike advised shareholders to vote against this proposal. The company claims its policies and disclosures show a long-standing commitment to human rights and responsible sourcing. Nike stated, "The proposal is unnecessary because the company's policies and disclosures effectively articulate the company's long-standing support for and continued commitment to human rights and responsible sourcing." Historically, Nike was seen as a leader in responsible supply chain practices, especially after overhauling its standards following a sweatshop scandal in the 1990s. But lately, labor groups have criticized Nike's track record. Last year, over 60 advocacy groups called on the company to resolve issues in Cambodia and Thailand. Nike has stated that it hasn't sourced from the Cambodian factory since 2006 and found no evidence of unpaid wages in the Thai case. However, some investors argue that the company's reliance on factory audits is flawed. Sarah Couturier-Tano from Share said these audits have proven to be suboptimal in high-risk countries at best, if not completely useless. The proposal from Share and others asks Nike to publish a report on how a more worker-led approach could improve their ability to identify and address human rights issues. This includes supporting agreements like the International Accord, which is backed by brands like Zara, Gap, and Calvin Klein. Mary Beth Gallagher from Domini Impact Investments, another supporter of the proposal, stated, "Nike has this architecture, but it doesn't seem to be delivering results, so it seems like some innovation is required." Investor activism on environmental and social issues has become more common in recent years. Nike has 5 separate proxy resolutions up for vote this season, covering topics from responsible sourcing to pay gaps and climate targets. The company has recommended investors vote against all of them. While these resolutions often fail to get the 50% needed to pass, they still raise awareness among investors and put pressure on company executives. Share's Couturier-Tano emphasized, "By not responding to our request, Nike believes shareholders do not expect better due diligence, and we're betting on the contrary." Nike's shareholder activism adds to the company's existing problems. Nike's share price is down 30% from the start of the year, with much of the loss occurring last month after executives predicted a dim year ahead. Nike is hoping that recalibrating its distribution and merchandising, an aggressive Olympics marketing push, and a $2 billion restructuring effort will drive a turnaround. However, recent job cuts have hit the company's sustainability teams hard. Nike's new chief sustainability officer, JC Probulski, stated that the company remains committed to sustainability, but the team changes reflect a strategy to embed the work across the company. Investors believe that improving supply chain management is crucial for Nike's long-term financial health. Nike is a very high-profile company, said Couturier-Tano. If it fails to protect its supply chain, it exposes itself and its shareholders to reputational risk, which may damage the company and our investment. So, what do you think about Nike's current situation? Can they turn things around and address these serious supply chains? Today, we're diving into a hot topic in the fashion world. Pharrell Williams and Louis Vuitton are facing a lawsuit over their high-end pocket size. Sox. Pharrell Williams and Louis Vuitton are being sued by a California company, Pocket Sox Inc., for trademark infringement. The controversy is over a line of $500 socks featuring tiny pockets, which Pocket Sox Inc. claims infringes on their existing trademark. Pocket Sox Inc. filed the lawsuit last week in a Los Angeles federal court. The company alleges that the luxury brand's product, which launched at Paris Fashion Week last year, infringes its trademark rights to the name Pocket Socks. The product in question is a literal sock with a pocket, which sells for around $530. According to the complaint filed on June 20th, Pocket Sox Inc. claims that much attention and publicity have been generated for Louis Vuitton's Pocket Socks. This includes coverage from the press and usage by consumers, which the company argues irreparably harms their long-standing brand and trademark rights. Pharrell Williams was announced as Louis Vuitton's men's creative director in February 2023. He debuted his first line for the company later that year at Men's Fashion Week in Paris. One of the items showcased was the Pocket Socks, a pair of knitted socks with a pocket adorned with a pearl. These socks gained attention in January when Jermaine Dupri wore them during his Super Bowl halftime performance. Currently unavailable for purchase, the socks are listed on Louis Vuitton's UK website for £420. However, this new product did not sit well with Pocket Sox Inc., which has been using the name since 2012 for its own line of socks featuring a zippered pocket. The company owns several federal trademark registrations for the brand and claims that Louis Vuitton's product clearly infringes on these rights. In a statement announcing the lawsuit, Pocket Sox Inc. claims that Louis Vuitton's new line threatens to undermine the hard work and dedication that has gone into building their brand. CEO Evan Papel stated, "This massive luxury brand and their designer, Pharrell Williams, should know better and behave within the law." The lawsuit accuses Williams and Louis Vuitton of infringing both the trademark to the name and the trade dress, meaning the actual look of the product. The sale of similar looking socks under the same name is likely to cause confusion, mistake, or deceive consumers, according to the lawsuit. As the case progresses, Williams and Louis Vuitton might argue that the name Pocket Socks is too descriptive to serve as a trademark. Under U.S. trademark law, terms that merely describe the goods or services being sold cannot be used exclusively as a brand. At this time, neither Pharrell Williams nor Louis Vuitton have responded to requests for comment. So what do you think about this lawsuit? Do you think Pocket Sox Inc. has a valid case, or will Louis Vuitton and Pharrell come out on top? Now that the Olympics are long behind us, I think we can now really dissect how the Olympics have impacted the world of skateboarding. Till this day, legacy brands just don't with the Olympics. Recent men's park skateboarding finals at the Olympics highlighted a big shift in the sport that's worth discussing. During the event, skaters like Keegan Palmer and Tom Scher were seen wearing kits from big sportswear sponsors like Asics and Adidas, rather than cult skateboard brands like Supreme, Palace, or Dime. While some skaters competed in Vans sneakers and road boards with wheels from classic skate brands like Spitfire, the overall vibe didn't match what you'd expect from Thrasher magazine. Since skateboarding was introduced to the Olympics at the Tokyo Games in 2020, it's become a new platform for global brand exposure. Big names like Dior and Polo Ralph Lauren signed skaters as brand ambassadors, with Aurélien Giraud and Louise-Anna Taboulet representing Dior and Jagger Eaton repping Ralph Lauren. But here's the kicker. Many brands that shape skateboarding's unique subculture are missing at the Olympics. Supreme, for instance, hasn't made a move, even though two-time Japanese gold medalist Yuto Horigome wears the brand and appears in their skate videos. Even Vans, with its deep roots in skateboarding, has taken a backseat, showing up only through established footwear contracts. This disconnect highlights what happens when a subculture goes mainstream. Skateboarding's rebellious attitude now has to play by the complicated rules of the Olympics, dealing with major sponsorships and reaching an audience that might not be the core skateboarding community. Damon Thorley, a brand manager for Spitfire and Thunder Trucks at Deluxe Distribution, noted that their main audience is more focused on smaller local scenes and what's happening in Thrasher, rather than the Olympics. Deluxe Distribution supports Olympic riders, but the event isn't their primary focus. Vans sneakers were seen on skaters from Japan, Brazil, and Australia, but the brand chose not to design kits for any country's skate team in Paris. Justin Villano, Vans global director of brand management for skateboarding, explained that these opportunities seemed short-sighted, when bigger sponsors like Asics would be seen on the podium during medal ceremonies. Instead of focusing on the Olympics, Vans supported supported athletes with long-standing footwear sponsorships, like Australia's Arisa True and Brazil's Pedro Barros. For Vans, it wasn't about being opportunistic with the games, it was about sticking with their commitments. However, securing a kit deal is no small feat. Skateboarding, which never required a uniform until the Olympics, now has to comply with strict IOC rules. This process can take up to 2 years, involving design approvals, negotiations, and agreements with national sports federations. Smaller skate brands often find it challenging to stand out at such a massive event. As Nate Orton, co-founder of Melbourne-based skateboard brand Idgepig, pointed out, when there's revenue to be made, you get the biggest brands competing, and even the biggest skate brands aren't monsters. This makes it difficult for skate brands to get the representation they deserve at the Olympics, which can feel monopolized by larger corporations. Even if a brand wants to create a team kit, they have to secure the deal first. Take OVO, a brand more associated with Canadian rapper Drake than with Canadian skateboarders. Yet, OVO was Canada Skateboard's top pick for an Olympic kit partner because of its global recognition and alignment with skateboarding's lifestyle aspect. Looking ahead, the 2028 Olympics will be held in California, the birthplace of skateboarding. This could be an even bigger opportunity for brands to showcase their influence. However, it's important to remember that Olympic skateboarding isn't a perfect representation of broader skate culture. As Vance Viano said, "I hope to see this sport continue to grow because of the Olympics, and we hope that provides more opportunities to our skaters and skaters around the world." So, what do you think? Is the Olympic spotlight good or bad for the soul of skateboarding? Let us know in the comments below. Today, we're diving into a big shakeup in the fashion world. Shein has completely turned the market upside down, challenging fast fashion giants like H&M and Zara, which were once the disruptors themselves. H&M is now trying to find its footing as Shein redefines the game with ultra-low prices, endless choices, and super fast production. But can H&M fight back? Should we even care? Lest we forget that H&M and Zara used to lead the race to the bottom, appropriating designs from lesser-known brands only to sell them at a much lower cost, kneecapping them in most cases to bankruptcy. Needless to say, Shein has taken the fashion industry by storm, offering ridiculously cheap prices, a massive selection, and a speed to market that no one else can match. This has left established brands like H&M scrambling to keep up. H&M's new CEO is taking on this challenge with a bold strategy. H&M wants to position itself right in the middle, more affordable than Zara, but offering so-called better quality than Shein. H&M believes this sweet spot is where they can thrive by appealing to a broader range of customers. Meanwhile, Shein's rapid growth hasn't come without some downsides. The brand has now surpassed others as fast fashion's biggest polluter, even overtaking giants like Inditex, the parent company of Zara. Shein's production model relies heavily on coal-powered manufacturing, which contributes massively to its carbon footprint. Over the last 3 years, Shein's emissions have tripled as their sales have exploded. I have to add that this is in no way an advertisement for H&M, especially because the fast fashion lane is fraught with environmental polluters, with H&M historically being one of them. Despite growing concerns, Shein is unlikely to face serious consequences anytime soon. Regulators and potential investors have started to scrutinize Shein's environmental and labor practices, but the wheels of regulation turn slowly. Right now, most companies, including Shein, are only being asked to be a bit more transparent without facing any real penalties for their environmental impact. Shein isn't a publicly traded company, so it's not obligated to disclose its environmental data. However, the company has started to release some information in a bid to gain favor with regulators and potential investors. This move is part of Shein's ongoing efforts to go public. By showing some transparency, Shein is hoping to convince regulators that it's ready for the stock market and reassure investors who are concerned about its track record on environmental and labor issues. So what does this mean for H&M? Well, I personally see the inevitable happening. They'll have to play in the mud they've helped create and most likely resort to the same game they've been trying to veer away from. That means finding ways to lower costs even more, offering value, and continuously adapting to consumer needs in a rapidly changing environment. As for Shein, for better or for worse, they will continue to dominate simply because their prices are next to impossible to compete against. The growing scrutiny over its environmental impact, production practices, and the sustainability of its business model has resulted in nothing more than a slap on the wrist. One can only speculate that they are making the right people the right kind of money to simply look away. What do you think? Can fast fashion's pioneers H&M compete against the newest fast fashion darling? Is Shein's reign going to last? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Today, we're diving into streetwear. Often defined as fashionable, casual clothes, this segment of fashion has deep roots in cultural movements like hip-hop, punk rock, and of course, skateboarding. To understand its impact on fashion today, I wanted to explore skateboarding's history and its contribution to the culture. Skateboarding began in the 1950s as a way for surfers to stay active when the waves were low. It gained massive popularity in the 1970s with the introduction of urethane wheels, which made skateboards more durable and versatile. This innovation turned skateboarding from a leisure activity into a competitive sport. Initially, skaters wore practical outfits influenced by surf culture, tube socks, high shorts, and t-shirts. The game changed with the rise of the Z-Boys, a legendary skate group from Venice, California. They brought a rebellious style to skateboarding, skating in empty pools and replicating surfing moves on the streets. Their look, ripped jeans, Vans sneakers, and hockey tees added a cool factor to the sport and linked it with the punk rock scene, eventually birthing the skate punk genre. In the 1980s, skate culture began to distance itself from its surfing roots. Brands like Stussy bridged the gap between surf and skate, while Vision Streetwear was the first to create clothing specifically for skaters. This era also saw significant changes in skate footwear. Vans' high tops and Nike's Air Jordan 1, originally a basketball shoe, became popular among skaters for their durability and style. Skaters like Tony Hawk helped cement these shoes as icons in skate culture. The 1990s saw the rise of street skating. Skaters needed clothing that allowed for more mobility and protection, leading to the adoption of baggy jeans, oversized t-shirts, and beanies. East Coast hip-hop aesthetics, marked by brands like Carhartt and Tommy Hilfiger, merged with skate fashion, laying the foundation for modern streetwear. Supreme, founded in 1994 by James Jebbia, embodies the essence of streetwear. Originally a small skate shop in New York, its unique layout and minimalist design attracted skaters and eventually led to its massive success in the fashion world. Supreme's approach, blending skate culture with a curated aesthetic, set a new standard for streetwear. In the 2000s, skateboarding's influence exploded into the mainstream thanks to media like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater video games and the X Games. Nike entered the skate market with the SB Dunk in 2002, a skate-specific version of its popular dunk silhouette. Despite being sold only in skate shops, the SB Dunk quickly gained popularity beyond the skate community. Skatewear diversified in this era. Brands like 4-Star, iPath, and Huff pushed boundaries with new ideas, from chunky sneakers to vibrant prints. Professional skaters became fashion icons, influencing what people wore both on and off the skateboard. Dylan Ryder, known for his stylish skate parts and modeling gigs, blurred the lines between skatewear and high fashion. The 2017 Supreme and Louis Vuitton collaboration marked a significant moment, merging high-end luxury with skate culture. This, along with collaborations involving brands like Burberry, Comme des Garçons, and Gucci, showcased skateboarding's growing influence in fashion. Virgil Abloh, former artistic director of Louis Vuitton, brought skateboarding into the luxury sphere with his designs, including unique colorways of Nike Dunk lows through his brand Off-White. Skateboarding and high fashion might seem worlds apart, but their crossover is more popular than ever. Skaters' practical, laid-back style, focused on function rather than appearance, appeals to those seeking authenticity in fashion. High fashion brands drawn to this genuine approach have embraced skate culture to reach a broader audience. As Noah's creative director Brendan Babenzian said, "Skaters are amazing, smart, and creative, and people want a piece of what they have." Today, collaborations like Dior's skate park-inspired runway show and Gucci's partnership with Palace Skateboards highlight the respect between skateboarding and fashion. Classic skatewear styles like oversized tees and Nike Dunks have become staples for both skaters and non-skaters alike. As skateboarding continues to evolve, so does its influence on fashion. New styles, driven by diverse perspectives from women and LGBTQ+ skaters, are pushing the boundaries of skatewear. It's clear that skateboarding will keep shaping fashion for years to come. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more updates on the latest in skateboarding and sports culture. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Welcome to the latest edition of the channel. What if I told you the most glamorous event in fashion is hiding some of the ugliest truths? Today, we take a step back from the glitz and glamour of Paris Fashion Week to ask some difficult questions about the state of the fashion industry. What has Paris Fashion Week come to signify? Is it still relevant, or has it become a hollow performance that masks deeper, unresolved issues in the industry? Let's dive in. For any designer, editor, or brand, relevance is the lifeblood of success. Without it, nothing you do matters. But as we watch today's runway shows, we're forced to ask, are these displays of creativity truly relevant? Or are they simply entertaining spectacles with little to no impact on the cultural zeitgeist? Much of what is presented is visually impressive, but often devoid of any deeper meaning or connection to the world we live in today. How many speak to the broader realities of the time? Relevance cannot simply be bought through expensive fabrics and star-studded front rows. It must be earned through innovation and a reflection of the world beyond the runway. Paris Fashion Week in particular has perfected the art of illusion. We're meant to believe that all is well within the fashion world, that the beautiful shows we see somehow reflect a seamless, flawless industry. But behind those elaborate sets and perfectly tailored garments lies a reality that's far from perfect. The fashion world is often fraught with scandal, as brands juggle hirings and firings of designers and creative directors with alarming frequency. Management reshuffles, corporate takeovers, and pressure from investors dominate the backstage drama. It's an industry in constant flux, where the turnover of creative visionaries seems more like a revolving door than a strategic evolution. We cannot discuss fashion without addressing the darker sides of its supply chain. Child labor, environmental destruction, and unsustainable practices continue to haunt the industry, even as brands tout their latest sustainable collections. For every headline-grabbing initiative to reduce carbon footprints or introduce green collections, there are just as many revelations about exploitative labor practices in factories or irresponsible production methods. The hypocrisy is staggering, and yet the industry as a whole does little to reconcile these contradictions. We've seen scandals erupt across major houses, Balenciaga, Gucci, and Dior, and each time they're quickly brushed under the rug, their wrongdoings forgiven or forgotten by a distracted public, eager to move on to the next season's collection. For all the grandeur of its shows and the reverence with which the city is treated by the fashion elite, Paris still has work to do. European houses remain deeply entrenched in systemic issues like racism, both overt and subtle. This is not a new critique, but the progress has been painfully slow. Even in 2024, the lack of representation on and off the runway remains glaring. The late Virgil Abloh was an outlier, not the norm, and his passing only underlines the fact that the industry has done little to diversify at the highest levels. Where is the next generation of Black or Indigenous talent taking the reins of these storied houses? While the conversation around inclusivity has gained momentum globally, Paris remains one of the last bastions clinging to an old world standard of beauty. Plus-size models are rare, and BIPOC representation is inconsistent at best. The models that walk these runways are stunning, yes, but their flawless appearances create a barrier between them and the everyday consumer. The unrelatable image of beauty makes it harder, even for those who once identified with high fashion, to feel connected to what's happening on the catwalk. Let's talk business for a moment. The luxury sector is experiencing a downturn, with earnings in free fall for many once untouchable brands. Consumers are no longer buying into the myth of artisan craftsmanship being peddled for decades. They've woken up to the fact that much of what is sold as luxury is in fact mass-produced and marketed under the guise of exclusivity. People are savvier, less willing to shell out exorbitant prices for goods that no longer carry the prestige they once did. The focus has shifted from artistry to the bottom line. Luxury brands are now in a race to churn out more products, grow faster, and meet the demands of investors. Fashion has always been about fantasy, yes, but as we move further into the 21st century, we must ask, how long can that fantasy survive without confronting the real issues that lie beneath? At what point does the glamour fade and the truth, however harsh, impossible to ignore? So what are your thoughts? Has Paris Fashion Week lost its way? Can fashion regain its relevance without addressing these deeper issues? Or are we headed for an even greater disconnect between the runway and the real world? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Welcome back. Today, we're covering an important and timely exhibition coming out of the Metropolitan Museum of Art's Costume Institute. They've announced their spring exhibition, and it's centered around a theme that speaks to both fashion and cultural history. The evolution of menswear through the lens of the Black diaspora. This is a significant step for the Met, and it's worth unpacking. The exhibition, titled Superfine, Tailoring Black Style, will be curated by Andrew Bolton, the Costume Institute's curator in charge, alongside Monica Miller, professor and chair of Africana Studies at Barnard College. Miller, who authored Slaves to Fashion, Black Dandyism, and the Styling of Black Diasporic Identity, was a key inspiration behind this exhibition. Significantly, this is the first time that the Costume Institute has focused on Black Dandyism. At this year's Met Gala, the co-chairs will include 4 Black designers and tastemakers: Pharrell Williams, actor Coleman Domingo, Formula One driver Lewis Hamilton, and musician A$AP Rocky. LeBron James will also serve as an honorary chair unless the controversy of his close affiliations with the now disgraced artist and producer known as P. Diddy catches up with him, or not. Pharrell Williams shared how personal this moment is for him, describing it as full circle moment, having grown up in a world deeply influenced by the African diaspora, and now curating Black dandyism and style within the prestigious walls of the Met. It holds a special significance, not just for him, but for many others who share this history. Historically, the Met Gala has been criticized for its lack of inclusivity, both in terms of the themes it explores and the guests it invites. What are your thoughts on this shift in the Met's approach? Do you think this exhibition signals a lasting change in how institutions address inclusivity, or is this just a step in the right direction? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, if you found this video informative, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more insights into the fashion world. Until next time.